Hey, Impressive Chessers. Today we're going to go over a game from this past Thursday, Halloween. This game was brought to my attention by one of my students who plays the Caro-Kann defense, which are these two moves right here. Alright, so the game went d4, the most common move. Whenever your opponent allows you to create the ideal pawn center, you should take it. So, white does. I was quite proud of my student, by the way, of coming up with this game to go over because they took the initiative to go out of their way to find an instructive game, and especially because it came from one of their openings that they really like to play. So the main point of this Caro-Kann defense is to play d5 to have the pawn back up that pawn in case they take it, which in this game they do not. And black plays the tried and true classical variation. The move that's the latest fashion nowadays, by the way, is this knight to f6 move, allowing the doubling of pawns if they happen to take our knight. Especially this move is very popular now. Alright, but that's not what happened. The game went bishop f5. Knight retreats with an attack. So, black also retreats. And now the move h4 happens. Alright, so hopefully you were paying attention and you know that white is about to play h5, which would trap this bishop. And he came up with a move like h6 or h5. Turns out h5 is not as good as h6, so h6 gets the exclamation point. The pawn on h5 would be a little weak, but at least you don't lose your bishop. But h6 is the best move in my opinion, and the most common move. Alright, the knight comes here, and if we're paying attention, this knight might be coming into here to harass our bishop. So black says, nope, I'm going to develop and stop your threat. That's some good chess right there. Alright, white says, alright, I want to trade off that bishop. Black says, I don't see anything better than take it. And both sides are developing their pieces. White castles queenside. Black brings out their last piece to castle kingside. If they do that, their kings will be on opposite sides, which means that white can throw their pawns at black, and black might be able to throw their pawns at white's king because their kings are not on that side. So they don't need those pawns to guard their kings. So this could lead to a crazy situation if that's in fact what happens. The queen goes back and black says, yes, I want that situation to be on the board. Alright, so now white plays knight to f1. This would be a good time to pause your videos and try to figure out why a good player like Elizabeth Peitz, sorry if I mispronounced your name, retreated their knights, disconnected their rooks. This looks like a beginner level move. So let's try to figure out why would they play that knight to f1 move. And what would you do in response? All right, hopefully you figured out it was to release the g-pawn to start that pawn storm that we were talking about. And the best way to meet a pawn storm a lot of times is an attack on the center. So that's what black does in this game. They decide to bring their pawn to c5 and get rid of some of white's center control. White stays true to their plan. This is another good time to try to figure out what you would play here. It looks really scary with this pawn coming down to g5 if we don't take it. Alright, so if you said you would take on d4, you have played the move that happened in the game. If you said knight takes g4, this looks very risky because this rook is coming over to harass our knight. But if you saw a little bit further, you actually can keep this knight well protected. And when they try to kick you out of here, It doesn't quite work because of this nice fork by the black queen on those two basically undefended pieces there. The knight's not undefended, but it's attacked twice. So it's attacked 2 times, only guarded once. So it counts as an undefended piece, and then the rook is totally undefended. So this is a nice fork / double attack by black. If you had seen that, you have just played the theme of this game, which is calculation over feelings or intuition. So when I was going over this game with my student kept on saying, "Oh, this looks really scary," or "I feel scared about this attack," which, I mean, it's good to have a little bit of spidey sense like that, but it's also really good to couple that with cold, hard calculation. And we're going to see that in the actual game. So the actual game went c takes d4, which is a fairly good move. I actually think that knight takes g4 move was a little bit better, but here we go. Pawn comes to g5, and now this is a really critical position. We must play actively to fend off this attack. So what would you play here? If you have to pause your videos, this is another good time to do so. All right, hopefully you did not take the pawn, because that would just unleash the Kraken, the rook, almost looking directly at our king. This is a very dangerous and bad position for black. So hopefully you didn't say that one. Also, hopefully you didn't say some like really defensive move like knight to h7, because then they're just going to tear our king open and we're not doing anything to distract them. So another theme from this game is the best defense is a good offense. If you can distract their pieces, or better yet, checkmate them before they can checkmate you, then we don't have to worry about their attack. In the case of checkmating them, we don't have to worry about it at all. In the case of distracting their pieces, their attack becomes less dangerous when their pieces are tied down to defense instead of just attacking. All right, so hopefully you said the knight should jump into the middle of the board where it's... We're going to see this knight is actually going to play a key part in black's counterattack. So white takes the pawn on h6. And the queen comes into the game to... Notice how black is just not afraid of white's attack. It's really crazy to see this. This is some really strong and good chess, actually. Just the ability to calculate and use a little bit of intuition too, I feel like. But mostly calculation, being like, all right, this attack looks and feels really scary, but I've calculated ahead and I know that my counterattack is just as good as their attack. And they were right, especially after white blundered. So the knight jumps into the game. This knight looks really close to the attack. Maybe this queen's about to come over to here to threaten a checkmate. Could also come over to here. It also lets it go there. So it looks really good. I can see why white played that move. But it allows a bone crusher move by black here. All right. Do you guys see it? It was bishop to a3. And actually this move is so strong that in the real actual game, white resigned right here. But let's see why. Well, first of all, if you don't do, let's say you're like, ooh, sneak, double attack, or actually that's a fork. The queen is attacking the bishop on a3, and the queen is threatening a mate on h7. Unfortunately, we have our own mate. So that totally does not work. Boop. All right, so queen to d3 doesn't work. They basically have to take our bishop. And the whole point of that was we deflected this pawn over to here. It's very important we did not just give away our bishop for no reason. Also, if you play bishop to a3, you better have already seen what you're going to do next. Because there will be times when you can go bishop to a3 and you get lucky that you have a good move. But that is not going to happen every game. So Before you give up a whole piece for something like this, you'll definitely want to have calculated out the attack. At least a little bit. All right, so hopefully you saw that when the pawn gets deflected over to a3, it's no longer guarding c3, so it's safe to jump into c3, which does this nice fork. It also, together with the queen, threatens another checkmate on b1. So again, if they move their queen, we're not taking their rook. No! And we get checkmated. That would be very sad. The knight guards the queen, by the way. We are actually doing our own checkmate. Woo! And our knight guards our queen, and that king is checkmated. All right, so looks like they should take the knight. And now we take back with the pawn. It's pretty amazing that this little pawn is doing so much damage in their kingdom. That together with just a queen and a pawn, it's enough material actually to overcome their whole defense. Because we deflected away part of their castle walls over to a3. All right, so we are about to play queen to b2, check and mate. So again, this queen d3 move is not going to work. It keeps on leading to this checkmate right here. All right, so let's say they free up the d1 square and they take out our knight. Well, now we can check them. They have to move there. And their own queen is there. Our little pawn is helping us by not letting the king out of here. So all we have to do is a check on the back rank. And that would be a mate. All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed that game. Make sure that when you're getting attacked or just in general, if something looks scary or feels not right, instead of giving up on it right away, maybe throw in a little calculation there. See if your intuition is actually right or if it's just being a little scared when you don't have to be scared actually. Just calculate it out. See if you're actually right. All right, guys. Stay impressive. Talk to you soon. Thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe. And if you can, share with a friend.